Jalen Brewster is the top-ranked defensive lineman in 2027. We're watching him right now, 6'3", 302 from Cedar Hill in Texas. You guys let me know what you think about him and anybody else you want me to watch. Kind of an interesting evaluation because we're going to see him play a lot of positions that he won't be asked to play at the next level. On defense, we're going to see him in the stand-up outside linebacker, defensive end role. In reality, this is a dude that's going to be playing a lot closer to the center, more of a defensive tackle type prospects. We're also going to see him with the ball in his hands on offense. This play, he's going to be playing this Wildcat quarterback. We're not asking him to do this at the next level, but what does translate is the athleticism we see him flash on the offensive side of the ball. This kid carries 300 pounds better than 99% of athletes that we'll watch on this channel. But, another point to make about Jalen Brewster and why this kid is one of the top-ranked prospects in 2027. We watch a lot of defensive tackle prospects on this channel. The difference is usually we watch senior year or junior year films on this channel, and we'll watch a lot of these kids, and they'll be really good athletes, but they'll be 260, 280, and we'll say has a lot of work to do in the weight room and in the nutrition program to really see the field at the college football level. Not the case with Jalen Brewster as a sophomore in high school. This kid either has or is very close to a college football frame. Just look at how powerful he is. This right tackle, 75, is pretty big for a high school lineman. Didn't look like it, though. Jalen Brewster just kind of ragdolled him on that play. We're going to see that again and again, just how powerful of a build Jalen Brewster already has and how strong of a football player he already is. Very impressive. That's why first of all, that's why he's on college football teams' radars, how strong he is and how powerful he is. That's enough to get you maybe an offer, maybe a visit onto the campus. Why is Jalen Brewster going to be a take for every team in the country, right? Why is this kid one of the top-ranked defensive tackles in the country? It's the frame plus the athleticism. Like I said, this kid carries 300 pounds better than most athletes you'll see here. So, this kid has a lot of upside as a pass rusher. We're going to see that off the edge here. Not going to be asked to play off the edge. This is the one thing that I don't think it's going to be a problem, but something that, will kind of have to change is he's just not going to be standing up at the next level. He's going to be playing a lot closer to the line of the scrimmage and a lot lower, right? We're going to see him in a three-point stance, and we'll kind of see him as this overhang here, maybe gets out-leveraged just a little bit just because the kids are able to get under him because they're in the three-point stance and he's kind of standing up. In reality, I think this is a dude that's not going to be standing up at the line of scrimmage, obviously. So there just might be a bit of a learning curve, I think, with the pad level, but, that's something that we'll probably watch the junior year of film and feel better about. Anyways, this is the best clip on the highlight tape, by the way. That's why I keep replaying this. I don't know if I've ever seen a 300-pound kid just bust ass like this and, out-angle a running back like this. Watch how much ground he covers here. This kid had an angle on him. I don't think Brewster actually made the play, but look at that right there. That's 300 pounds moving right there. What that is to me is pass rush upside. This kid's going to be a nightmare for opposing centers and guards when he's playing that tackle position and getting after the quarterback. Very quick, and we'll even see some flashes of the bend. At 6'3", 302 pounds, we're never really going to be talking about this kid being super flexible, but I don't think he's stiff to a deficiency level. I think that's just kind of the trade-off of having a kid with this powerful of a frame, and that's something I take every day. So you can, sophomore in high school, very rare size with really good athleticism. That's really what Jalen Brewster is. This is going to be one of the top-ranked defenders in 2027, I think. If this kid was coming out as a junior, if this was a senior year film, this kid would be one of the top-ranked defensive tackles in the country for sure. So as a sophomore, it's even more impressive. I'm not even really sure there's that much progression that has to happen at the high school level for this kid to feel good about this kid contributing, pretty early in his college football career. But the one thing is the pad level. There's going to be some reps where he'll be up against a smaller kid and he just won't move him as well as you see on other clips. And it's just because he's getting just a bit higher. And, that just comes with playing that overhang position. He's not really, it doesn't look like he's coming out of the chute the way that he will, when he's actually seeing the field at the college football level. That's what I noticed with him. Just different, I think. But yeah, that was Jalen Brewster. You guys let me know what you think about him. Any other players you want me to take a look at? Thanks for watching.